Hey everybody, it's Scott here with Corporate Fitness Works. I'm at Aspiria Fitness Center and we're bringing you mobility and more class today. So we're going to jump in right to it. We've got a nice full body warm up to kind of ease us into it. We will do some individual movement and range of motion based exercises for our first little block, and then we'll jump into a secondary block where it has a little bit more strengthening involved in that block. So we're going to jump right back here and get started. So all you need today for this mobility and more class is your body, of course. We've got our mat here, or some nice open floor space. Hopefully you have a mat. We will be in our kneeling position, so hopefully you're on some carpet or some place that feels okay on your knees. And then, of course, I have one dumbbell here. It's a 10-pound dumbbell. That is about as high as I would probably recommend going. So even if you don't have a dumbbell, some kind of a light object that you can hold will work through a little bit of range of motion with that. Hopefully it's a little bit smaller so that you can hold on to it. So do your best to find something that you have if you don't have a dumbbell available, but hopefully you've got something small, 3, 5, 8-pound dumbbell that'll work good for you. Up to 10, it'd be tough to go past that, so please be careful with your weight there. And of course, I've got my water bottle. Grab your sweat towel if you need it. You're gonna want that water just in case we need to take a sip and take a break. I've got a small mini loop band here today. We'll use this towards the end for one exercise. If you don't have one, that's totally fine. Get by without it. If you want to grab one and go ahead and give yourself a little extra resistance for hips here when we do get to that, go ahead and grab that. Other than that, I have a bench behind me that we're going to start seated on here. You don't have to have a bench, just anywhere you can sit. You can honestly do this probably sitting on the floor if you needed to, but hopefully you have something that you can grab to sit on, and we're going to take it away from there. So I'm starting with shoes off here. I'll probably remain shoes off the whole time, so if you're comfortable with that, go ahead. If you want to wear your shoes, that's totally fine, whatever is comfortable for you. At home, just stick and follow along here. So we are going to use a timer for most of the class. We've got 60 seconds for each exercise, so we're going to start. Our first block is just going to focus on our neck and our ankles, and then we do have some very basic, just kind of full body, core, abdominal mobility with some extremities involved. And then we're going to jump into some a little bit more specific stuff. So we're going to start seated on our bench here, starting with our neck exercises first. So for our neck exercises, we got 3 different exercises we're going to do for a minute each with these transition periods in between. And we're going to start today with tilting our head side to side. You can think of this as ear to shoulder. So we don't want to turn our chin, we don't want to tuck anything, we're just leaning side to side. So when I'm tilting this way, I have a nice stretch on the side of my neck here. So we're going to work on loosening up our neck first, keep working on our shoulders as we get through the class. We're starting our first minute is ear to shoulder, side to side. We want to push through the stretch. We don't want to stretch it too far. I don't want to put anybody in pain or anything like that, but we do want to try and push that range of motion so we feel a nice deep stretch so we can get that range of motion increased, increase our mobility. So we're going to start right there. For our first minute is that lateral head shift, ear to shoulder, side to side. We're going to do 3 different neck movements, then we'll go down to our mat for a little bit of full body warm up, then we're going to come back up into a seated position, and we'll do a little bit of movement for our ankles, and then we'll go back to the mat once more before we start our specific stuff. So we've got our side tilts, our lateral flexion, ear to shoulder with our neck, and we're starting that in 2, 1, and clock is ticking here. So we've got our full minute on the board, and of course we can sit on our hands here to help keep those shoulders from raising up. We'll feel an extra stretch that way. Hopefully you feel that. We have a little tightness in our traps on the side of our neck there. So we're just working through this nice and slow. There's no rep goal here. So just making sure that we really try and stretch that range of motion, push our neck to each side here. So we're really feeling that stretch. I'm feeling some tightness on the sides of my neck for sure. So hopefully we can get a nice range of motion for our lateral flexion. We're probably feeling pretty tight here as most folks are. So don't worry about that. Just try and keep pushing through that range of motion. Find that end. Hopefully you can see that it's improving a little bit as we go. We're just finishing up here. We're just going to hear one long solid beep to end our round and one to start it. So we won't get a countdown, but we will go to the beep. So we're finishing up here, just a few seconds left. Really working on tilting that head. Good. So go ahead and get off our hands. We got a quick 20-second transition. Roll out our shoulders. We're going to keep it going with our neck, and now we are going to turn our chin side to side. So we were tilting our head before. Now we're going to look over your shoulder and look as far as we can. We feel that stretch on the opposite side, and then look to the other side. So we're starting that minute right now. So now we're sitting up nice and straight, and we're working on that rotational range of motion at our neck here. So we're twisting, trying to look over our shoulder as far as we can to each side. Fighting through that tightness just a little bit. If we have any pain, we want to stop, but we are fighting through that little bit of stretching and discomfort, hopefully increasing this range of motion for our neck here. We're fighting to that point where we feel a nice tight pull. Maybe stay there for 1 or 2 seconds, finding that stretch and working our way back to the other side. Again, no rep goals, so we're moving as slowly or as quickly as you feel comfortable here. Slower may be a little better as we work through these range of motions here, ranges of motion rather, and we feel that stretch that we're working through a little bit. So 1 or 2 more twists here. Nice pull on the neck. We're feeling it loosen up a little bit. Good. There's our break. Go ahead and roll those shoulders out again for a few minutes. Roll our neck around, relax it. We're going to do one more for our neck before we hit the mat. So this one now, we are going to tuck our chin down and extend our chin up to the sky. So we're stretching the front of our neck muscles and working those on the front of the back a little bit here. And our clock is ticking right away right now. So we tuck our chin as low as we can go, and then we're going to drive our chin up to the sky. So when we tuck, we may feel a nice stretch at the base of our skull. When we drive our chin up, we're stretching all these neck muscles in the front. And we're doing the same thing, moving slow and steady through that range of motion, tall shoulders, finding that tight spot, holding it at the end of that range of motion, hoping to expand our range a little bit. Just driving through these ranges, we're tucking and extending the chin, feeling like we're starting to open up our neck and spine a little bit. We got about 20 seconds to go, so keep tucking that chin, keep driving up to the sky. Just a few more in each spot. Keep holding it nice and tight, drive that chin up, keeping our shoulders back and tall. Good, and we're done with our next segment. We're gonna go down to our mat next, where we're gonna get a little bit of extra full body movement in here. We're gonna repeat this round once we get back to our bench, but first we're gonna start with the cat-cows here. So just alternating between our rounded position and our position down to the mat. So when we go up to the sky, we drive those shoulder blades up, breathing all of our air out, and then we're dropping our belly to the mat. Take a big breath in, arching our back. And we're alternating between those two positions here. We arch, we get that big breath in, really stretch your stomach out, feel that stretch on the abs, and then as we come up, we blow our air out and really drive that mid-spine up to the sky. Slowly switching these positions here. Focused on that breathing, so we're blowing out here, exhale, then we're inhaling, big breath in toward the mat, stomach toward the mat, arching our back, and then we're going to round our back, blowing all that air out. 1 or 2 more in each position here. We're close to our time. Good. We worked through our cat-cow for the first time. We're staying right where you are, hitting hands and knees here for our bird dog next. So this is a great one to get our core hot, starting to utilize our core a little bit. And we're going to go fist to the wall and heel straight back. So you see I have that nice line here. We're not kicking up to the sky. Keep your core active. Keep your core active. Keep that nice neutral spine as you kick back. We're just holding briefly and switching. So taking advantage of this to get our core a little bit of early work, as well as just working on stability. And we're slowly warming up and mobilizing our extremities a little bit as we drive through these positions. So we're moving as quickly as we can, only as long as we're stable, and we're just going to lock that position in, lock our core, feel that core working here as we maintain stability, and we're just alternating for our final 20 seconds here, remembering to drive our heel straight back rather than kick it up to the sky, and our arm is out front, so I've got that great line from hand to fist. And we're going to pair this with everybody's favorite pair, the bird dog straight to the dead bug, which is another great one for our core. Again, some early core work and working on these extremities. So we're going right flat onto our back into this same position, only we're upside down. Now we gotta focus on our core as we work on stretching these extremities out. So another minute here. We will repeat this round, so we will get a little bit more core here in just a minute. And so we're ready to go. We're in this position, hands and knees, and we're extending opposite arm and leg. Starting to feel a little bit of work going on in the core. We're stretching our hip flexor just a little bit on that extended leg as we extend out. And we're stretching our lat a little bit as well up on the top side. So try and float that hand and heel. Don't let them touch the ground. That way we can keep the tension on the muscle and get a little extra work that way. So we're working through this nice and slow. Just feeling all these muscles working, feeling where we're tight, where we need a little attention maybe, extra stretching, extra mobility work as we can feel some of this change as we work through here. So we've got just over 10 seconds, one or two more switches here. We're still taking it nice and slow. And there's our break. Great job. We're going to go back up to our bench or our seated position. You can accomplish this probably here on your feet if you need to, on your backside seated down, but if you have something you can get up and sit on, that's going to be helpful. We are going to start moving down towards our ankles, and we're just going to do just some classic circles here. So nice and slow, broad circles with our ankles, feeling like we're waking these feet up a little bit. We are going to switch directions halfway through. So stick with whatever direction you're going right now on these ankles. Nice, slow, big circles, just waking up the ankle joints. There's a lot of moving parts down there, so feeling like we might hear some crackling and popping, and that's okay. That means we're moving stuff around, so that's good, as long as we don't have pain. We're going to switch our direction here in one or two more circles. So let's go ahead and switch now. So we're going to go out the opposite way now, feeling like we're warming up these feet and ankles a little bit. So nice, big, broad circles, working through that range of motion, noting where we have tight or maybe stiffness, or we're just maybe not moving very well, which is a sign we have some stiffness in the ankles. If we can't complete a nice circle, we want to work on these. Nice, slow circle, we should be able to do that with no problem. 5 seconds, keep on going. Good, there's our break. So go ahead and relax those feet down on the ground for just a minute. We're going to continue for our feet here, and we're going to do flexion and extension, basically, dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. So we're going to just alternate between pointing toes away and curling those toes up towards your knees. And there's our timer. So we're just going to slowly work through those. So we point the toe, feel a stretch on our calf somewhere probably, and then we're stretching this way as well. So when we point the toe, we may feel a stretch on the side of our leg or the front of our calf. And as we curl toes up to our knee, we feel a stretch on the back side. So we're just working through these range of motion again here. Get to that end point and try and hold and squeeze for a second. We should feel like we're getting a little bit of work done here. We're sticking the whole minute just like we are now. So alternating between pointing toes and curling toes up. So we're getting some good ankle mobility in here. We're going to continue working on the ankles later on, but we're just taking it nice and slow to start this full body warm-up session here. 15 seconds to go. Continue pointing, hold that end point for just a second on each one and move through. Good, and relax those feet again. Shake them out, do a couple circles again if you need to. And we're gonna go to our last one, which is inversion and eversion, where we can think of that as pointing our toes inward. So we're kind of trying to show the bottom of our feet, and then we're going to point the toes outward to get our soles of our feet facing away. So there's our last one. So you can suspend your feet if you want to. Try and show the soles of your feet to each other, and then we're going to kind of externally rotate those outward and sort of get that extra bit of motion in the ankles. So just kind of playing around there, trying to get our feet to fit together, and then we're turning those toes, lifting that pinky toe outward, feeling like we're feeling some good motion going on in the ankle joint there. Keep working through it here. We've got about 30 seconds left, so should be feeling like these ankles are waking up a little bit. If they're still pretty stiff, that's okay. Just know that you have a sign of something that we need to work on. we're just working on that eversion and inversion. Doing the best you can here. This is a tough one to feel out, so just try your best. We got 15 seconds left. Any kind of ankle motion right now is great, so if we can't quite accomplish this, just try and keep focusing on that flexion or some light circles wherever you felt some tightness, getting some motion in the ankles. Last one there, get those turned away. Good, we're gonna go back down to our mat here for one more section where we really light up our core before we take in some more individualized mobility for individual muscles. So we're back to our cat-cows here. So thinking about our breathing again, we're lighting up our core a little bit here and worried about that rounding and arching of our back. So there's our timer. We're gonna round up to the sky where we blow all of our air out and really feel that T-spine. And then we inhale as we drop our belly to the mat and arch our back and alternate between those two spots. Don't forget to hold for just a brief second or two at each point to really feel that working hard mobility. We're really dropping our stomach here. Big breath in, and then we drive up, round that back, really drive the shoulder blades. Focused on the breathing, big breath in. And we exhale, rounded our back up. We got time for one or two more at each spot. We're arching, we're rounding up. And let's take a big breath in. And arch our back as time expires. Great job. So go ahead and relax. Come up out of that tabletop position if you need to. We're back to our bird dogs. So locking up that core, making sure we get some early core work here. Remember, we're doing a straight fist to heel line. Avoid kicking that heel up to the sky. Trying to go straight through the wall, either before or behind you. In front of or behind you. So there we go. Locking that core up for stability, and we're just making that straight line. Core's working hard. Lots of involvement here. Hip flexors, glutes, quads, everything works hard during this movement. And our upper body, of course, we're stabilizing. We're stretching our lat. We're getting our upper body muscles, shoulder muscles, chest, everything is working here. And we're worried about stability here. So speed is not the concern. So just go as quickly, or as slowly rather, as you feel comfortable. Just worried about locking in that stability and driving that fist and hand into that nice, perfect line that you can make from your fist to your heel. So remember, we're not kicking that heel way up to the sky. We're just working on stability, getting a little bit of motion in our extremities, and making that core work hard here. And a break. And of course, we're flipping over one more time for everybody's favorite bird dog pair, the dead bug, which we did. It's that opposite, upside down here. We're extending opposite arm and leg, trying to float those to keep a little bit of tension on the muscle. So try not to let your heel hit the ground. Try to keep that hand afloat as well. So here we go. Clock is ready to tick. We're starting here. So we're in our upside down position where we alternate, extending the arm and leg out. Remembering to float that heel as best you can. Keeping our core active, working through those motions here, feeling these extremities work, loosen up, tightness in our hips maybe here, tightness in the hip flexor, working through it, feeling the stretch, making a note of where we feel that tightness. Floating hands and heels. We've got about 15 seconds left. Keep that core working hard. Awesome job. We are done with our first little block of mobility there. So we just had some basic mobility for our neck and ankle, and we just started lighting up our core a little bit and getting some basic extremity movement going on. So we're going to move right along the line here. The timer is the same on these, so we're just going to target some individual muscle groups here. So we've got a 12-minute block. So we're doing 1 minute on each exercise. We're going to work our way right down the line. We're going to start in the seated position. We will be on our knees a lot, kneeling here, so hopefully you have something that you can kneel on that will help the knees if we're not on hard floor. So that's going to be great if you have that. And we're going to start in this seated position with internal rotation for our hips and legs. So this may be tough to achieve for some if you have some tightness in the hips. We're started here in this position. I'm going to turn away for viewing purposes, of course, here, but that's the position we want to start in. And we're sitting here and we drop our knee inside, and hopefully we can feel some stretching, or if we have a lack of mobility, we'll feel it in here. But the goal is to get our knee all the way down to the ground. So hopefully you can achieve that. If you can only do one side, that's great. That gives you an indication that we have some hip tightness on the other side that we want to work through. So we're in that position again right here. I'm going to turn to the side for viewing purposes, so you guys don't have that view, of course. And then we're just going to alternate through the round. So you just slowly drop that knee, come back, and drop the other side. So paying attention to where we feel some tightness in our glutes, hips, anywhere, pinching on the front, on the side, or on the back, wherever you feel it. So we're ready to go in 3, 2, 1. Clock is officially ticking here. So we're in our leaned back position for our hip, and we're dropping that knee in, feeling that, getting all the way down to the mat, feeling a pinch maybe somewhere that we want to work through. Hopefully we can, if we can't touch, hopefully we can get you there by the end of the round or get close. Pay attention to those improvements. You feel like you can get that knee down a little farther every time maybe. And don't forget to blow all your air out as we get down there. Exhale and really push and fight through that tightness or wherever you have. So try and fight the resistance a little bit. We don't want you pushing through any pain. So if it's causing any shooting pain, or sharp pain, going anywhere, please stop, making sure we're not overdoing it here, but we are just working on getting that knee down. So hopefully we can achieve that. Tap that knee on the inside there all the way, getting that nice range of motion in the hips there. One more here. Oh, there it is. There's our timer. So we got our hips warmed up a little bit. We're going to start our first one in our kneeling position, which we're going to do. One knee is kneeling and the other one is out in front of us here, like so. And we're going to do a combo of a hip flexor to hamstring. So we reach down toward the toe, and as we sit back up, we've got our glute squeezed. So as we squeeze the glute here, we can lean on it. We feel a hip flexor stretch. And then we dip forward and lean toward that toe. And then we're going to alternate those positions. So we have that bending in my knee a little bit on the front, and that's good. So we're stretching hamstring there. Let it bend a little bit and squeeze our glute so we have a stretch. We don't want to arch our back too much here. So just focus on squeezing that glute and feeling the stretch on the front of your hip there. So we're stretching this leg hamstring. We're working on the opposite leg for the hip flexor though. So my top leg or the front leg that you see here is hamstring, and I'm working on stretching the backside hip flexor on the other one. So we're just slowly working through there, reaching down toward there. Hopefully we feel that nice pull in the hamstring, and then as we come here, we've got our glute squeezed, so we don't have to arch to feel that nice stretch on the hip flexor. And we're just working through there. Hopefully we can stay balanced here. I'm getting wobbly. But we've got a nice combo, hamstring and hip flexor here going. One more reach down to that hamstring. Good stretch, and then we finish up the hip flexor. So we're going to go ahead and switch it. So now we'll have a great view of the hip flexor and what's going on in the back leg. So we squeeze this glute here to avoid having to crank that back really badly. So keep that glute squeezed down here, and then we're doing the same thing. So we're working through hamstring, coming back up, nice flat back squeeze, and we got our hip flexor going right there. So let's keep it going. See if we can maintain our balance here. Squeezing this glute so we don't have to over arch the back to get that stretch there. Hopefully you can reach down toward your toes. I have hamstrings that don't like to cooperate, so I can't quite get to my toes. I get as close as I can, and that's what we're working on it for, right? That's why we do our hamstring activity here. Hopefully one day I'll be able to touch. I'm having some balance issues on this side here, as you guys can see, so hopefully you're nice and stable. Feel free to brace yourself on something if you'd like. Hold out, on the coffee table or whatever you've got. You can just use one arm to reach down toward that hamstring, and then we're flexing hip flexor as well. So 10 seconds to go, working through this last little section here for our hamstring and hip flexors. We're going to get to lay flat on our back next here. All right, break time. This is an easy one arm at a time. We're laying flat on our back, and we're going to do a thumbs up position here, and we're driving our thumb up and over the head, trying to get that to lay flat on the ground. So our goal is to lay flat here, and hopefully we can take our thumb from right here, thumbs up all the way over, and then we're poking and getting that thumb to tap. So we want to tap your thumb here and come all the way over. So hopefully you can get there. We're going to feel a lot of nice pulling underneath our armpit and our shoulder blade. So if you can't get there yet, work through the round. Hopefully you'll be able to feel that loosen up and you'll be able to get that thumb to the mat. But we're starting to work on stretching shoulder, lats, a little bit of back muscles here, feeling that working hard. So we're sticking on the same arm, just driving that thumb up and overhead, reaching that very end range of motion. You'll probably feel it pinching and not some tightness, so fight through it as best you can. Of course, we're stopping with any pain, right? Any shooting or sharp pain, but we're feeling like that lat is really tight on the side, so we want to open it up by driving overhead. We push that shoulder blade down into the ground and we feel that stretch on our lats. So keep on going. You got just under 10 seconds left here, so 1 or 2 more good reps. Feel like we're waking up the shoulders a little bit here. Good, so we're just gonna relax that arm, and now we're back here on the backside arm for me, so wherever you guys are at, we got that thumbs up, starting right on the floor, and we drive that thumb up over, maintaining the thumb. So really we're gonna thumbs down now as we get overhead, but we got 3 seconds before we take it away with the beep here. Take a nice big breath in and out, exhale your air. And of course we force that shoulder blade, so keep your shoulder blade squeezed down and in, stable, so that as we drive the thumb overhead, we feel all those muscles working hard. Might feel a little popping. Hopefully you can get that thumb all the way to get that thumbs down poke, leaving it overhead. We're squeezing the shoulder blade, feeling a nice pull all along those side muscles here in our shoulder blade, behind the shoulder, everywhere is getting nice and stretched out here. So just continuing to work in a slow range of motion overhead here, getting as far as we can go out there, tap that thumb, and return slowly to the starting point. 20 seconds to go here, so get a few more nice reps in. Do your best to get that thumb tapped. If you can't make it, that's okay. Do your best. Hopefully you're feeling like we're loosening up a little bit, even though you maybe can't touch it. We're getting there. Nicely done. All right, those are our 2 laps to warm up. So we're gonna go stick with our upper body here. We are gonna come back into a tall kneeling position. Both feet are kneeled here. So we've got your option here of what to do with our offhand. So we can go all the way to the floor, or we can rest it right on our thigh. And we're gonna do hand behind the head, and we're doing now a thoracic rotation, driving our elbow up to the sky. So we wanna pay special attention. Our clock is ticking, so we're gonna work through this. We're paying special attention to drive up to the sky with our shoulder blade first. When we come down here, you can meet your palm, twist that up to the sky, really trying to open our chest so top shoulder blade gets squeezed. We're pulling and opening up this side of our chest as that elbow drives up to the sky. So we're working through here, coming up, squeezing that shoulder blade, driving the elbow up. So as we're really driving that elbow up, we feel a stretch all along those back of our shoulders there, opening up that thoracic spine or our mid-back. Maybe even a stretch all the way down into your hip if we're extra tight. One more nice rep here. We've got about 3 seconds to go. Drive that elbow way up, squeezing the shoulder blade. Good, and relax. So we're doing the same thing on the other side. Remember, our key here is to get that hand up here. We're driving, leading with the elbow. So squeeze that shoulder blade, especially tight as we come up and over. We want to guide that, so we really want to pull our shoulder blade back. Give ourselves plenty of room to extend up and get that twist in overhead. So here we are. So we can either be in our position here or all the way forward. I prefer the forward position. And then we're coming all the way up, really driving that shoulder blade, driving the elbow up overhead, trying to open up. We feel a stretch on our chest here as well. Rotating back down, trying to get that elbow close to the mat. And of course, we're driving up every time. Big squeeze in the shoulder blade, really big pull back so we can open up that chest and mid-spine and feel like our T-spine muscles are getting some work here. We're starting to work up a little sweat maybe, so feel free to take a drink break. Grab your water bottle if you need it, your sweat towel. We're getting a little sweaty. We're not working too hard, but we are working, so if you gotta wipe some sweat, go ahead and do it. We're almost there. 1 or 2 more big ones here. We're gonna get 1 more big drive in. So drop that elbow, shoulder blade squeeze back, drive that elbow up. Nicely done. Okay, good job. There's our kneeling open book for our spine and shoulders. We're gonna sit down in our butterfly position next. So this one's gonna be for our inner thigh and a little bit of glutes. So everyone is familiar with our butterfly position like so. We're gonna squeeze our glutes here. So there's our timer. We're up on our mat here. So we're bringing our feet in as close as we can, and we now squeeze the glutes to drive our knees down. So we're up here. If I squeeze my glutes, they're gonna go down, right? So we wanna try and maintain that squeeze for the glutes, and then lean forward as best you can as well. So you might wanna grab the toes. We lean forward, we got a nice stretch, and then we're gonna squeeze the glutes as well. And we're gonna lean and just kind of alternating between those two things. We squeeze the glutes, drive the knees down, and then lean forward into it a little bit, pull yourself forward. So as we squeeze, we might feel a little shaky, that's okay. Just our muscles working on loosening up a little bit there. So keep working through these positions. Big stretch on the glutes, lean forward into it a little bit. We got about 15 seconds. Keep squeezing the glutes, keep leaning forward into it, pull yourself forward. Drop those knees down as best you can. Hopefully your knees will go flatter than mine. I'm pretty tight in the inner thigh there. It's not letting my knees hang. So that's good. If you guys can go farther than me, that's great. Hopefully we can get them way down, right? But mine don't like to cooperate. That's our butterfly right there. So we're gonna go into our next position here, which is for our ankles again, specifically. And we're gonna be kneeling forward on this knee. So we're leaning up, and we're gonna just keep working on driving the knee forward over our toe here to increase our flexibility at the ankle right here. So we're leaning forward. We don't wanna rock or bounce on it too far, but just go into this position. Hands can be on our knees here. Lean forward, try to keep your heel down. And then we're just working through that as best you have it. So lean forward, feel a nice stretch. And then come off of it. So we'll feel a stretch back and behind on our leg there on the back of our ankle. Maybe a little bit of pressure on the front of your ankle as well. That's just some stuff knocking together, giving us a little bit of immobility. That's what we're going to try and work through here. So we're keeping our big toe down, heel is down as well, and we're just driving our knee straight forward over our toe. 15 seconds left here. Hopefully we're feeling like our ankles working a little bit here as we stretch and force this range of motion. So this will help our squat depth. If we are working on that as well, we need to get these knees going a little bit farther over our toes here. That happens with that increased ankle dorsiflexion, which will help us in a lot of ways, but especially if we're working on that squat depth, a little bit more ankle flexibility is going to help us get deeper into our squat position and feel better when we're down there. So same thing on the other side. We've got a minute coming up. Just in this upright position here, and we're leaning forward over it, trying to keep your heel down as best you can, and just driving that knee over the toes. Feel a nice stretch along the back side of our calf there. Those calf muscles. Heel down, toe stays down as best we can, and we're just driving our weight forward over the toe, feeling that stretching in the back of the leg, the Achilles area maybe as well, and we maybe feel a little bit of a pressure on the front of the ankle, and that's what we're trying to work through, that stiffness or that kind of blockage that you might feel. Ankle is not quite operating like it should, so this is a way to help get a little bit of extra motion in the ankle, and we have some load over the top as we lean onto our knee and really force that forward and drive it. So working on the last 10 seconds here, 1 or 2 more, really lean forward, drive your elbow or your forearm on that knee and really force into that ankle flexion there. Last one, leaning forward, nicely done. There we go. So we're feeling that in the ankles a little bit. We've got one more here. One more pair. We're going to do our reach over, still in the kneeling position, so hopefully knees are doing okay. And we're going to do a reach, and this is going to stretch out our hip, all the way from the back of our hip, all the way up into our armpit here. So we're just going to reach as far as we can go, and then we're going to come back in this way, tuck the elbow, reach overhead, and we tuck. So hand on the other side of your hip, wherever you feel comfortable. We can rest that on our chest. Hand on the thigh or the hip is just fine. Just working through that reach and the range of motion there. Reaching up overhead, so as we reach, we tilt, so we have a nice stretch right on the top of the hip there. And then we're going to tuck and squeeze and get a little bit of squeezing and muscle contraction in the back in these muscles that we're stretching out as well. So don't forget to squeeze. We've got a big stretch and reach, but we got to bring that elbow down and squeeze it in and tuck it so we feel all those back muscles working right around that area. So big squeeze. 10 seconds to go. We got 1 or 2 more big reps. Don't forget to squeeze. We're going to reach and pull. Big squeeze. We got time for 1 more. Reach and our pull. So we're doing 1 more. We got to flip it over on the other side. We're working through this mobility here. Starting to feel loose. Hopefully you're feeling good. We're going to get a quick strengthening section here with our weight that we have available for us. Hopefully you've got something. One last reach and tuck. So we're reaching overhead, big stretch, leaning into it so we have a nice opening all the way over here, and then we lean back into it and tuck the elbow for a big squeeze. Big reach and a big squeeze, working through it. Don't forget to lean as well. Get that extra range of motion by leaning and then really tucking that elbow to squeeze. $20 seconds to go. Don't forget the squeezes. Working through our last little block here before we go on to our quick little strengthening block that we've got. Nothing serious there. We're just going to target a few rotator cuff and hip flexors, some stuff that could use some attention, right? So one last reach and pull, reaching over, big stretch, and a big pull and a squeeze. Awesome job. Nice job, guys. Go ahead and take a quick break here. Let's take a drink of water. We're not sweating too much, but we're working hard, right? So don't be afraid to take a drink. Staying hydrated is key. We're using a lot of water to move around, right? So even though we might not be sweating a lot, make sure we're replenishing our water. We got 1 more block here that we're going to go through. We will want our weight for this one. So we'll do 1 for our shoulders, 1 for our kind of mid-back, then we are going to target hip flexors as well, and that's where we've got that mini loop band handy. So you don't need to have the loop band, but if you do have it, it's a nice way to add a little bit of extra resistance. We're still going to get a great position to target this no matter what. And you'll have 2 choices of how to do that. So we're going to do what's called a sword draw with our dumbbell on each side, which will be on our feet, having that light dumbbell at this side, and so we're going in a diagonal motion across our body as if we were drawing a sword, right? That's what we call our sword draw. And so we're keeping our shoulder blades squeezed down and back, and that's going to help our rotator cuff muscles do what they're supposed to do, keeping our humeral head tucked in a nice position. So we got a sword draw on each side, focused on the shoulder blade squeeze and a slow pull and a slow return across our body. 1 of those on each side. We're going to do a hip flexor. So you can do that 2 ways. You can stand, and we're just going to continue driving that knee up nice and slow up there. So we're going to feel it right here. Or you can lay flat on your back and do the same thing, just tucking a knee to our stomach. Either way, we have that loop band. We can put 1 foot on, the other toe is inside the loop, and we're pulling up against the loop. So what that will look like, whether we are standing or laying down, that will look like this here. So we've got off leg is holding the band, and then my working leg, my working leg is here. So then we're pulling up on that band, so that's really going to target our hip flexor region right there on that leg. So your choice, with or without the band's just going to give us some extra resistance. You'll still feel it, I promise, even if we don't have the band. So if you don't have one, don't worry about it. And of course we're laying down, we're doing the same thing, right? So 1 of those on each leg. And then we're going to finish with a kneeling, back in our kneeling position. We're going to hold on to our dumbbell up overhead, like so, while we work on. We're going to rotate and touch the ground down here. We want to make sure my arm doesn't move. You'll notice how my upper body slightly moves, but my arm is not really moving much. And we want to squeeze that shoulder blade down. That's going to help us recruit some muscles in our mid-back, make sure we have our shoulder stability in line, and work on our core a little bit as we reach down for that touchdown. So those are our exercises, and we're going to run through that block twice. So we'll do everything 2 times on that. So plenty of time to get some exercise here a little bit. Nothing crazy, but we will get a little resistance going. So we're going to be feeling it here, mostly for our shoulders and the hip flexors. We're going to start up on our feet. We've got that sword draw. Another option here is if you do have a band, we can always work on pulling a band across our body as well. So pulling that band here behind you and pull up and across. So if you don't have a dumbbell and you'd like to use a band as well, you can do that. It'll be tight with a mini loop band, but we can still accomplish that a little bit. We need more room, but here's what it would look like. We would hold the band there, and then you're pulling up and across your body that way. Of course, this hand wants to stay down there, so we want a nice tape band or something that we can pull on, or just your light dumbbell, even a water bottle or something, just to give your shoulder a little bit of work as we move through that range of motion. So we're going to take it away. Here's our last one, or our last block anyways, and we're going to start with that sword draw. So we're starting here, opposite side, and we squeeze that shoulder blade down and back, and we're working going up and across our body, slow and controlled on the way down. And we're going to get ready to go in 3, 2, 1, and clock is ticking for our first sword draw. So we start here, opposite hip, squeeze that shoulder blade down and back, all the way up overhead. We're moving in this nice diagonal motion. So you'll now see if you have any more than 10 pounds, or maybe even more than that, or less than that, it is going to be tough on your shoulders. So please drop the weight accordingly. We're going for just slow consistency here. We do not have a rep goal. We are just working through this nice long 1-minute timer. We're focused on really squeezing the shoulder blade here. So the weight is not really relevant. It's just giving our shoulders something to hold on to as we focus on the movement. So 20 seconds to go. We got a few more reps in us before we switch arms. Get that big shoulder blade squeeze, especially at the top. We should really be forcing that shoulder blade down and back. One more squeeze coming up here. And there's our break. Nicely done. So you guys can feel how really hard that makes our shoulder work, all those rotator cuff muscles, everything working hard, even though we have a very light amount of weight, right? So that's our sword draw. We're ready to go on the other side here. So we're going to get this countdown here, 3 seconds, ready to go. Opposite hip again. And we're going up and across our body. Big squeeze in the shoulder blade. Hold it for just a second at the top and really make those muscles work, and return slow and controlled to that position. Slow, big squeeze there at the top. Remember, we're driving that shoulder blade down and back this way as we get up to that top position. So we have plenty of room to work. Rotator cuffs working hard. We're feeling a nice stretch, maybe on our chest as well, as we get up to that top position. 15 seconds, 1 or 2 more reps left. We will come back to this, so make a note of any adjustments you might want to make. Let's get one more nice, slow, controlled rep all the way up and down. So all the way up, big squeeze, shoulder blades working hard, and then we're returning. Nicely done to our bottom position. All right, we're going to take our hip flexor, and I'm going to choose to do mine laying down. You're welcome to do this standing up. Remember, we can have the loop band. Otherwise, we're planted, and we're going to use the same leg the whole time. You'll probably feel it even if without the band. So if you have no band, don't worry. Otherwise, we've got the loop band around our toes, and we're working hard here. So we're pulling against the band just like so. Nice and slow. You're going to want a light band if you have it, of course, so you'll feel that, and you can make the adjustment and just go no band if you need to. If we don't have a band, we especially want to make sure we're floating that leg to keep tension on the hip flexor there, but we're feeling that right on the front of our hip there. Slowly just pulling back, and of course, if we don't have the band, no problem. Just pull in, get a big squeeze, and then return that leg all the way out without letting the heel touch the ground. We're going to stay floating. So we got a big squeeze in the hip flexor there, and return back down. So band or not, we'll still get some nice action in our hip flexor, loosen it up, really focus on floating that knee as we go forward. Nicely done. We're going to do the same thing on the other leg. So get that band prepared still if you'd like it. We're going to keep just going with no band for this round. We may add the band back in second time through. And we're ready to go here. 5 seconds. Get yourself ready. Resituate the band if you need to. Otherwise, we're just focused on the slow, controlled motion. So working on slow, big squeeze up there with the knee, and then slow extension. Float that heel. Don't let it touch the ground. So hopefully we have something to pull on, but you'll definitely feel it even without. Like I said, you can do this standing up as well if you'd like. Just working on hip flexor, extension, and flexion. Big squeeze, we're in flexion there, you can probably feel it. And then just there. So slow and steady wins the race here. We're not doing reps, that's what we got the timer for. We're just working through this motion, feeling where we're tight, feeling where we're loose, where we're weak, where we need to strengthen. If we're having any pain or pinching anywhere, we want to address that as well. So just working through. We got just under 20 seconds, so we're still driving that knee up. One more nice slow rep. Good. So we can feel that, right? Without even the band, we felt nice little bit of fatigue happening in our hip flexor there. So we're going to go ahead and get that dumbbell or whatever weight you've got, and we're going to go into our kneeling position. So the dumbbell is up on the high knee side, and we've got our arm here. So we want to force this shoulder blade down. So we're driving that shoulder blade tucked in right there, and we're going to work on tilting our body and just enough to touch the mat. So you want to pick a spot that you can rotate in. So find that spot in the middle of your chest and rotate about that spot. And try and keep this arm locked in. Shoulder blade is squeezed down, so we should really feel those mid-back muscles working hard to keep that shoulder stable. And of course our core is working hard to reach down and touch that ground. So we've picked that point of rotation somewhere, maybe it's your belly button, maybe it's middle, wherever you'd like to try and just look at that or think about rotating on that axis only. So I would be spinning around that. Shoulder stays nice and stable. Got 20 seconds to go. We're squeezing that shoulder blade down. So our arm and shoulder really shouldn't be moving at all, right? We're trying to lock those into position, and everything else is moving around that point that we've decided in our mid-chest and stomach. Awesome job, nicely done. That one we're working on the shoulder as well, right? But we want to focus on everything else that's going on while we just lock in that shoulder. So working on a little bit of stability for the shoulder here, some of that rotator cuff action as well. So high knee side is with the dumbbell. We're squeezing that weight down. We've picked our spot of rotation. So find that on your body, imagine it as best you can, and we're leaning and touching. We're finding that point as best we can. Shoulder stays relatively immobile. It's more of our torso moving around while we have that stable shoulder. So we're going as slow as we can. Keep that shoulder blade tucked tight, just enough to touch and reach back over the top. This is a lot tougher than you think, right? So reset it if you need to. Really focus on keeping that shoulder blade squeezed, though. That's our main goal. And then, of course, we're rotating about that single point on our chest or stomach. We got 10 seconds. Let's get 2 more reps in. We did a nice one there. So one more nice and slow. Jam that shoulder blade down. Stable arm. Working overhead the whole time. Tap and go. Awesome job. Nicely done, guys. We're back up on our feet for the sword draw. One more time through those, and then we'll be all set to go today. So get ready for our sword draw on each side. We got one more set of hip flexors and one more for our kneeling shoulder, and then we're all set. So we're ready to go. Sword draw here. Clock is ticking. So again, we just did that arm, so we're going to switch to your other arm. So if you just did it, switch to your other arm so we're not overly fatiguing that shoulder too much. Working on that sword draw. Shoulder blade is still very active, right? We're squeezing down, leading the movement with the shoulder blade. Big squeeze back. Then we're holding it at the top for just a second to ensure that we're getting that full stability up at the top. So slow and controlled, especially on the way down. On the way up as well, we're pulling everything, locking that shoulder blade, should be pulled down this way, and then we're coming back across nice and slow, getting there. So speed is actually our enemy here. We want to work through these nice and slow, feel that full range of motion, feel everything that's going on in the shoulder joint capsule, locking it at the top, locking that shoulder blade, So our last one, we got 5 seconds. Let's do a nice slow crawl all the way back down to start. Good job. So again, our speed is the enemy here actually, so we want to just take it nice and slow. We should be more worried about what we feel here than how many reps we're doing, right? So really setting our base nicely, right? So we're starting across the body. Lead with the shoulder blades squeezed back, big pinch, 2, 1, and here we go. So we've got that big shoulder blade squeeze, pulling it all the way, opening up that chest, return nice and slow all the way back down. So we're not going for speed, we're not going for reps. I'd rather you do 5 really slow, nice, good ones here than doing 30 if we're just quickly lifting that arm up. So that's not doing us much good. So we're focused on the shoulder blade here. Squeeze the heck out of that shoulder blade. Pull that arm up and across. Tuck it in, squeeze it nice and tight. Core is tight, of course, as always. And then we slowly come back across the other hip. So we're working hard, feeling those shoulders working. We got 20 seconds. We got a couple more big ones here. Big squeeze. We're gonna get one more in, so all the way to the return spot. Squeeze that shoulder blade, drive up, lead it, squeeze and tuck it in, and we're gonna go slowly return to our spot. Nicely done. We're gonna do hip flexor again, one more time on each leg. So grab that loop band if you've got it, flat on your back, standing up straight, however you do it. We'll do mine standing this time, just so we can see what that looks like if we want. That's all we're doing right there. So we will get a little bit of balance and stability training on that leg as well. So if you'd like to join us up on our foot, we're working on balancing hard with that plant foot the whole time, and then we're just gonna come high enough to get a big squeeze, and then all we're gonna do is just barely tap the toe and tuck. So working on stability as well as that opposite hip flexor there. So hip flexor is easy to fatigue, so we may already start feeling it, right? Especially if we've got a band that we're pulling on. We're opting out of the band for the video purposes, but I wanted you guys to see that so you can have it. So if you do have a light loop band that you want to use, grab it. We should be using it. We got 20 seconds to go. We're getting plenty of work in the hip flexor even without that band. So, and of course, we're getting some good stability training on the other leg, right, as we're balancing on that plant leg the whole time. Changing our center of mass as we drive that knee up. So core got a lot of secret work today as we're working on all these other things. So one more set on our hip flexor on the other leg. Join me standing, keep it down on the mat, add that band however you'd like to do it. Just focused on that plant foot, working really hard. Take it up another level, stand on your mat as well for a little bit of added instability. That's probably not a smart idea for me. This is my bad side. We're gonna try it anyway. So much more stability demand on the mat. We don't have a solid base for our feet. So we're working extra hard. It's quite hard, right? So play around with that if you want. Getting a little extra balance training. Our core is working hard, and of course, hip flexor above all is working hard as well as we drive the knee up, hold it just briefly, and return our toe and heel back down to the ground. Working on that balance. Come back to the floor if we need to, if that instability is too much for you. Your choice. That mat's a nice little easy trick to add a little bit of instability, right? So we have not quite that solid, strong foundation to step on, so our body's got to keep guessing as that squishiness of the mat plays around with you. We got 10 seconds to go. Keep working. We did our plant leg for stability. That hip flexor is still working on the opposite leg. Working hard. 2 seconds. One more hold and relax. Awesome job. Back down. One more set on our kneeling position here. Really locking in that shoulder blade. Core is working hard to get that touchdown. So half kneeling, high knee side, dumbbell up in the air on that same side. Pick your pivot point somewhere in your chest, mid-chest there. Lock that shoulder blade down and just go for the tap. Slow and steady here, working on squeezing that shoulder blade. That's the main key. Working all these back muscles on that upper arm side to keep our shoulder blade stable as we go for that touchdown. A little bit of core work as well, right, as we're staying stable, pulling up to get that touchdown and return back. So again, we're squeezing that shoulder blade. Don't let your arm move. You guys will notice how little my arm and shoulder are moving because I'm just rotating around that axis here, and I'm ensuring that my shoulder blade isn't moving much because I'm squeezing it down the whole time. I'm being really conscious about pulling my arm back down towards my body, letting that weight do the work up top to get that nice tap. 10 seconds, let's get 2 more taps in here. Nice tap, slow, big squeeze, we're pulling it down, jamming that shoulder blade down, and we tap. Nicely done. We can feel how hard that arm works just from holding the weight, and if we're squeezing our shoulder blade right, I promise you guys will feel it. So one more time, this is our last minute. Let's go ahead, get that knee up there, get that arm locked in. Good, our last minute's on the clock, so we're jamming that shoulder blade down. Nice slow tap, and we're returning. So don't forget to pick that pivot point that we're working around. My arm moved a little bit there. I didn't get a great start, so we're locking that in. Find the pivot point, and till just enough working our core to get that touchdown. Shoulder is still squeezed. Halfway there, we got 30 seconds to go. Big squeeze in the shoulder, don't let it move. Almost there, we got a couple more touches. Keep sticking with me here. Good. We got time for one nice slow touch. Jam that shoulder blade down, get a nice slow touch all the way in, and back up to the top, locked in. All right, drop that arm, drop your weight. Great job, guys. That is it for our mobility. We did finally start maybe working up a little sweat at the end there. Those last couple rounds are tough. Even with that little bit of weight, if we're focused on what we need to do, we really started feeling some fatigue in the shoulder, fatigue in the core, fatigue in the hip flexors. So hopefully you guys felt that. Let's take a very, very brief stretch. We're just gonna go right into a child pose here for about 30 seconds. And so we're just gonna sink down onto our hips, feeling a stretch in those shoulders and shoulder blades, everything else that we just worked really hard on. So go ahead and drop your head to the mat. Big breath in and out. We got about 15, 20 seconds left here. Just really stretching the shoulder blades, sink back onto your heels. Blow all that air out for the last 10 seconds here. Hanging our head down. Feeling the pull on the shoulders and shoulder blades. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. So let's come forward here. One more quick one. We are going to just go right into the Cobra Pose after that. Squeezing our glutes. Get a little bit of relaxation in our hip flexors. So go ahead and tuck toes underneath you, lean forward. We're going to squeeze the glutes. Big breath in here. And we're pushing our stomach out so we're feeling that nice stretch along our abdominal section there. 15 seconds to go here. Keep holding, squeezing those glutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. All right, so we just got a very light stretch in there to end up stretching just briefly on the hip flexors that we worked on. Stretch out those shoulders a little bit. So I hope you guys felt like this helped you guys get a little bit more mobile. Focused a little bit on our rotator cuff and hip flexors. We did get some full body stuff in, but that was a little bit of our focus today. So I hope that helped you guys out. Let me know what you guys liked about today's class. If you felt like you were tight, felt like you came through a breakthrough, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know. So drop me a comment below. So I'd love to hear what you guys liked about today's class. So until we can see you back here in the fitness center, I'm Scott with Corporate Fitness Works at Aspiria Fitness Center, and this was Mobility and More. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.